this is some news that is obviously maybe a little more pop culture, but I think is very important to talk about, which is Sean Combs. Sean Combs, hip-hop mogul, has been arrested. He was arrested in New York. He's being held in a Manhattan jail. He was arrested on racketeering and sex trafficking charges. He faces life in prison. He knew he was going to be arrested in New York. He was sunbathing in Central Park the morning that he was arrested, which kind of makes sense since, like, it's not clear if he'll ever see the outside of a prison cell. He's been denied bail twice now. One of them was, I think, he offered $50 million. A couple homes were thrown in there, and they were like, ew, no. Your homes? Where these disgusting acts to happen? No thanks. So there's a lot obviously to unpack, but and I'm curious, Josh, if your thoughts on it, but a little bit more specific about it. Obviously, these are racketeering charges, but he's being prosecuted first. Members, they have not been named, I believe. The members and associates of the Combs enterprise, again, remember the Trump enterprise, same thing, engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other activities, sex trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for the purpose of prostitution, coercion and enticement to engage in prostitution, narcotics offenses, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice, the indictment states. Multiple witnesses who've worked for Combs have been meeting with prosecutors. A source familiar with the federal investigation told CNN at least one male sex worker is expected to testify in front of the grand jury in the coming days, according to the source, who added that the witnesses' allegations go beyond the details in this week's indictment. Jesus Christ. It's like, oh, there's more than just arson. Another thing to note about this, some of the people who were victimized by Combs were also co-conspirators. So the Combs indictment indicates that specifically, stating a purpose of the criminal enterprise was, quote, securing absolute loyalty from members of the Combs enterprise, including through acts of violence and threats. In other words, I'm going to like rope you into my criminality and then hold it against you so you can never leave. And this is, again, associates, people he was mentoring, people who he was representing as a producer, who he had signed to his label, Bad Boy. And it all comes after, over the summer, a lawsuit was settled between him and his ex, Cassie, who's an R&B singer, that alleged physical and sexual violence. There's an undisclosed sum of money where, the lawsuit was settled. We don't know. But another lawsuit has just popped up from a singer, Dawn Richards, who was in that band Danity Kane from his, Making the Band show, yeah. Right, who said that he groped her and assaulted her, and that she herself witnessed him abusing Cassie as well as one of his other ex-wives, I believe Kim Reynolds, is that her name? It's fucking bad, y'all. But I will say, this is, some folks have pointed out, one of the reasons we haven't heard a lot about this is because many of the victims are men. However, it seems like the reason we are hearing about it is because a lot of those who've testified, especially people like Cassie or, again, the singer Dawn Richard, are women. And they've been the ones to sort of lead the charge. I guess I just wanted to, there's a lot here, but there's two things I wanted to draw everyone's attention to before whatever, because I did a deep dive into this a little bit, and a couple of gross things. So I didn't know that Usher, for example, was one of Diddy's proteges, and that Usher was actually just 14 years old when he went to go live with Puff Daddy in New York. And here is a bit of an interview that Usher did with Howard Stern. And he's like, I don't know, Josh, pick up on whatever you think this means. It's kind of terrifying.
New York City. And I lived with Sean Puffy Combs for a year.
That's the crazy thing. Now, that was L.A. Reid's idea, right? We're sending you over to something called Puffy Flavor Camp.
There you go.
To learn
Flavor Camp?
Yeah, that's what it was called. And you're going to go to Puff Daddy's. He's going
in the 90s. Do you understand what that's like?
Puffy's place was just filled with chicks and orgying nonstop, right?
No, not really. I mean, but hey, it was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yeah, but you were 13. What were you seeing?
I went there to see the lifestyle.
Right.
And I saw it. And it was But I don't know if I could indulge and understand what I was even looking at. It was
okay. I was curious. I saw some things, but I don't know if I could indulge. I didn't know what I was looking at. Jesus Christ. He sounds like a fucking like a child that just saw someone like swallow a sword and it came out as like their butt at a circus. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of, this is like, I'm sorry, but this sounds like someone's describing something a little traumatic.
Well, especially because they went, well, it was orgies. And he's like, no, not orgies. Something different that I don't understand. And it's
Right,
like, what a,
right.
that's like a pretty terrifying description of what was going on.
There's a little bit more, and I apologize for the sync here.
It was pretty wild.
So nobody tried to, some woman didn't come along.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I didn't say that. What I did say is that there were very curious things taking place, and I didn't necessarily understand it.
Biggie.
So no one tried to, a woman didn't try to, and he's like, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. So what does that mean? Like, I didn't say that I didn't participate or no one accosted me. And she does say woman, but who knows, right? Mm-hmm. Anyway.
Smalls was there.
Biggie Smalls was there. Lil' Kim, Craig Mack.
All these people are hanging around.
Yeah, man. Faith Evans,
And your
Jodeci,
parents were
Mary
okay?
J. Blige.
14 years old. You're a dad now. Would you ever send your kid to Puffy camp?
Hell no.
All right. So there you have it. Hell no. I would never send my kid to Puffy camp. Josh, just maybe your reactions to this, like, insane, like decades long trail of crimes.
Yeah, I mean, it just whenever you hear about a story like this, it's not just the apparatus of like one bad person doing horrible things, right? It's like what it takes to keep that going and to keep it secret from the general public. And I think that's like the stuff that scares me too, is like how much is that, like, it's not just, like, oh, this guy is a creep. It's like, oh, he had like a corporation of like
Creepdom.
People were getting 1099s or whatever to like allow a creep empire to exist, allegedly.
Yeah, and these things were like these little parties, which I don't feel like you can call them parties. Just because there's alcohol and drugs doesn't mean anyone's having fucking fun.
Right,
but,
we've seen Leaving Las Vegas.
Yeah, exactly. They were called freak-offs, which is really funny because I've seen other media outlets report them as a freak-outs. They were called freak-outs. And you're just like, oh, God, just get it right. Just get the name of this weird-ass shit right. Again, there were like sex workers, but also people who he was shepherding and stewarding like Usher, but also like Justin Bieber. There is now, video footage is being looked at in a new light of like a young Justin Bieber with Sean Combs, who's obviously like in his 40s. And it's just like, what the fuck? Why is this shit happening in front of us? It's like Michael Jackson being like, no, my best friend is a 3-year-old. And you're like, no, like my best friend is an 8-year-old. Not okay. But yeah, this is why like I think it's important to talk about this, because it's just like, I don't know. And especially I think when it happens in like the rap hip hop community, or like with R. Kelly and stuff, like part of what I learned as a white ally or a half white ally from the R. Kelly doc was like, this is all like, people ignore it because it was happening to like young Black women, and that's why he could get away with it for so long. And so it's like, it's important when this shit breaks through. Also, we're looking at another Epstein here. I mean, the guy had everyone in his orbit. And one of the people he didn't have in his orbit was Kamala Harris. But don't tell Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is very hell-bent on trying to link Vice President Kamala Harris and Sean Combs. Take a look.
AI and disinformation are rearing their ugly heads yet again in the presidential race. Former President Trump reposting on Truth Social an altered photo trying to tie Vice President Harris to Sean Diddy Combs. On the left, you see the real image. It shows Harris with Montel Williams. On the right, the altered image, which has Sean Combs' face over Williams. The meme Trump reposted also had several lines of lewd and inappropriate text that we are not airing.
So that is a terrible Photoshop job. And initially, I couldn't tell who was Photoshopped because I only looked at Kamala, but then I was like, oh no, it was Montel Jordan.
Montel Williams, right?
What, Montel Williams, not Montel Jordan. Montel Williams, which, by the way, I also said Kim Reynolds. No, Kim Reynolds is the governor of Iowa, Francesca. Paige told me that. No, so wrong person. Although that would have been really funny if Kim Reynolds was somehow wrapped up with P. Diddy. But the person who was wrapped up with P. Diddy was Donald fucking Trump, you guys. Here's just a smattering of very 90s, early 2000s dated photos. There you have Russell Simmons, another accused like serial rapist, basically. Melania's in 2 of these photos. They're it's just like, oh yeah, no, they were friends. They've been friends. It is very easy to find photos of Donald Trump with Sean Combs, just like you can find photos of him with Jeffrey Epstein. But Josh, this is all so he can get to the pedophiles. The closer he gets to the groomers, the more he can, if he infiltrates them, he can upend their enterprise.
I get to tell you, he's gotten awfully close to a lot of sex criminals and alleged sex criminals, and not a lot of not a lot of busts being made by Donald Trump. It feels like he's kept his police work. He's like still pretty deep undercover.
It's deep. It's very deep.
Is that still what QAnon thinks? Are they still like, oh yeah, like every time there's a new sex criminal with pictures of Donald Trump, they're like, God, he's so good at this. He's just getting them all. And not like, oh, this old man probably committed a lot of sex crimes.
Yeah. No, he had the foresight because he knew this. He's been building the case. He actually tipped the feds off in the first place. What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do it.